The world is ever changing and sometimes we just need a helping hand. Hey, it's Wilmer Valderrama. New apps here, new tech there, it's all very exciting. But it's nice to have something you can count on. Like insurance from State Farm. ¿Tienes preguntas sobre tu seguro? Con State Farm puedes llamar a tu agente o conectar con ellos. Aprende más en es.statefarm.com. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there.
This is the smell of a warm 3-day-old egg salad sandwich in a wimpy trash bag.
Wimpy, wimpy, wimpy!
Blech. And this is the smell of that same sandwich in a hefty, ultra-strong trash bag with new Fabuloso lemon scent.
Hefty, hefty, hefty!
Smell the difference? When life gives you stinky, get Hefty Ultra Strong with new Fabuloso lemon scent. It smells like clean, freshly picked lemons. So no matter what's inside your trash, you can stop the stink and smell the lemon.
Hello and welcome to the Paddock and The Pavilion with Stephen Wallace. In each show, Stephen will interview someone connected to the world of horse racing or cricket.
Hello everyone. Today I'm joined by someone who has been a bit busy the past few years, Andrea Nelson, the CEO of the 2022 Women's World Cup. Welcome to the show, Andrea.
Kia ora, lovely to talk to you.
Well, you had a wonderfully successful tournament which ended on Sunday the 3rd of April when Australia beat England in the final by 71 runs. 31 games, 31 days. How do you feel over a month after the tournament has finished?
Yeah, look, it's been a chance to kind of reflect on what was really quite a magical month here in New Zealand. We, as you might have seen, kind of caught the COVID thing a little later than everywhere else in the world, and this tournament really did get the raw end of the deal at every point. So to the fact that we managed to get the event off, the fact that it was so entertaining, and then to be able to deliver that final in front of a sold-out crowd at Hagley Oval, to me, it's a real sense of pride I look back on at what we managed to achieve.
It must have taken your life over for a very long time. When did you first get the job?
Yeah, well, of course, it was the Women's Cricket World Cup 2021 when I got the job. So that was in 2019. So my first part of my job, which was terribly grueling, was coming back over to the UK to watch the 2019 World Cup. I didn't manage to stick around for the final, the draw. Didn't stick around for the draw, but I did.
We did win, actually. You've forgotten that, yeah?
I do, yeah. No, I do understand these things, but doesn't mean I have to accept them, though, does it? Didn't stick around for that, but that was my beginning. So June, July 2019 was when I started. So it's been a long 3 years.
We're going to come back to that because that's the main point of the show. But I did want to go back to talk about your own background. Where were you born yourself?
So I was born in Blenheim, which is the top end of the South Island here in New Zealand, and moved around a lot as a kid, around different kind of rural parts of New Zealand.
And do you come from a sporting family?
That's not particularly, actually. And I wasn't particularly sporty myself growing up. I was quite arty. I was a big reader. And I didn't find school sport particularly enticing or engaging. And it's actually one of the big drivers for me in women's sport, because I think there's a lot of girls like me who, you know, the way that sport was delivered wasn't particularly inspiring. I didn't have any role models that I could see myself in. And so I pretty much opted out of it until much later in my life. In fact, around the time I moved to the UK, I started both playing and working in sport.
And is that when you moved to the UK to work? I know you worked on the London 2012 Olympics.
Yeah, look, I love to be glamorous. I have to say I moved to the UK to do that, but I was on my OE. So I was enjoying my time in the UK and travelling around. And I was incredibly lucky to pick up a contract working on the bid. And I started the same day as Sebastian Coe on the bid, and managed to see it all the way through to helping to write the end of Olympic report. I mean, it's a big project. I played a very small role in it, but it was 9 years of my life working on that one.
Well, here's a question for you. I remember the day when it was announced, being at work and seeing it on the television, the vote that was. Did the team think they were going to win that morning?
Oh, it's a really interesting one. I was in London. Most of the team were in Singapore. We knew that we had a chance if we were up. Now, I've got to get this right in my head. I think it's if we were up against Paris, we knew we had a good chance. And which was against what the media was saying. I think the media were suggesting it was a different way round. But I actually helped run the event in Trafalgar Square alongside Martin Green, who's actually, I think, working on the Birmingham games. But we had Rachel from S Club 7, and we had a live video link to Glen Eagles with Tony Blair. This is how long ago it was. And the Red Arrows were on call, ready to fly over Trafalgar Square. And we told the police confidently we'd have 5,000 people there. And I think it was 36,000 people when they stopped counting, and they had to shut down most of the roads in central London. So it was a pretty exciting moment to be at when we won.
It must have been a fantastic experience working during the Olympics and the Paralympics, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. And in fact, the Paralympics were probably a little bit, well, you don't want to compare, they're very different, but the Paralympics are really fun because you kind of know how everything works, you know your way around, and the sport's really engaging and emotional and exciting. So I think actually I was lucky enough to be in the Olympic Stadium the night that Johnny Peacock won the 100 metres final, T44, 45, I think. And that to me is up there with the greatest sporting moments I've ever witnessed. It was so exciting.
And then you worked on the 2017 Rugby League World Cup. Did the Olympics sort of give you preparation for that?
Yeah, look, it's every sport is different. So I came back and did a FIFA Under 20 World Cup, and then on to Rugby League. Rugby League in New Zealand is a really amazing sport. It's massively popular in Māori and Pacific Island communities, and it just the World Cup in 2017 was just actually a truly incredible experience because it was actually the first time Tonga and Samoa had played each other in New Zealand. And if you don't know, Auckland has more, now I think this is correct, Auckland has more Tongans than live in Tonga and more Samoans than live in Samoa. I think that's right. But certainly massive population, and the level of excitement. We had people lining the streets. There's a suburb in Auckland that shut down for a month because there was a party every night, and it culminated with the semi-final against England, Tonga v England. And there was a slightly controversial call at the end of that semi-final where England went through to the final, and the Tongan crowd took a while to adjust to that, but it was a great, amazing experience to work on.
Let's move forward then to the 2022 Women's World Cup. At what point did the date get changed from 2021?
Oh, you're testing my memory there. So what I can tell you, I have to work it through in my head, but we did launch the tournament on very early March 2020.
Oh, not a good date, I don't think. No, not a good time to be launching a tournament. Is it 2020 March? No.
Well, we'd just come back from the MCG. We'd watched 90,000 people. We'd watched the final. And then we pretty much got off the plane to a meeting, a launch with Manu Soni, who was then running ICC, Jacinda Ardern, our Prime Minister, and did a big, beautiful launch at Basin Reserve. And that was in March, and New Zealand went into lockdown, I think, 3 days later. And so we still really were confident we could deliver the event, and we could have delivered the event here in New Zealand. But in around, I think it was about August that year, it became clear that the teams weren't able to prepare for the tournament in a way that would allow the best possible, showcase of women's cricket and the best experience for the players. So the decision was made to postpone it. It was a really hard decision for us at the time, but ultimately it was the right one. And I think if you saw the quality of the contests that, happened around our stadia this year, you can see the benefit of that extra year.
So in a way, did the delay help the organising of the tournament?
Yeah, look, I think more time's always great, but the thing with events is that if you have more time, you fill it. We did a lot more public engagement. We did a lot of work in communities here in New Zealand. In the period, the year in between, we actually had pretty much no COVID here. So New Zealand was operating almost completely open, free, apart from the borders being shut. And so there was a very interesting situation. So we were planning for an event where people would quarantine on their way in, but once they were here, everything would be normal. And so we were able to have a really great active community engagement, lots of really fun activities as we geared up. So, yeah, the extra year was good. It was also good, I think, for the profile of the game and for the quality of the cricket.
Well, the competition got underway on the
3rd of April. 3rd of March.
3rd of March, yeah. I've written 4th of April here, so I'll check my notes. So as soon as I read it, I knew I'd got that wrong.
4th, 3rd, they get really confusing.
At Tauranga at Mount Maunganui, a fantastic venue. I've actually been there myself because I saw the England-New Zealand Test match there. Seems so long ago now. It's only November 2019. And New Zealand, the White Ferns against the West Indies, and a dramatic start with the West Indies winning the first game.
Yeah, it was a nail-biter, that one, and I think it really gripped a lot of New Zealanders onto the match, for good or for bad. You know, I think it was the fact that women's ODI cricket, which, let's be honest, on recent tours of New Zealand, hasn't been highly competitive. You know, I think there wasn't a lot of really close ODI matches in the lead-up, so to have that real last-minute thriller, even though the result didn't go the local team's way, it kind of got us off to a great start. And that moment with Andrea Nelson asking for the ball for the last over and you know, getting those 3 wickets, I mean, that was just a sporting moment to remember, wasn't it?
Well, we tried to forget Deandra Dotting, if you're an England supporter, because she took that fantastic catch.
Well, I don't think we're particularly fond as New Zealand supporters either, but, you know, as tournament organisers, we can be appreciative.
Well, you've got to be neutral as a tournament organiser.
Exactly.
But as an organiser, did you have like plan A, B, C, D, E, F and all the way up to Z because of the situation? Yeah,
we had a lot of plans, and I think one of the most unique things is that 95% of our plans weren't used because they either the thing they'd been designed for no longer existed or you know, the situation changed. So just shortly before the event, COVID did appear in New Zealand. We actually followed the peak of the Omicron wave down the country. So it peaked basically in every city as we were there. So we had quite strong but reasonable biosafety measures around the teams and really kind of protected the team environment as much as we could. But as the tournament went along, the restrictions loosened and it meant that we could bring crowds into the stadium.
Yeah, because you had, hubs, the crowds were in small hubs to start with. Then the final, you got full crowd in the final.
Yeah, we started at 10% and then we got all the way up to 100% at the end. So it was a good, it was good. And the really exciting thing was that despite the fact New Zealand weren't there at the final, we still had a sold out crowd. And I think that was, to see a stadium full of proud Kiwis and Cantabrians giving an Australian a standing ovation was quite an experience.
Yeah, I was going to ask, once the tournament started, did the quality of the cricket lift the morale in the country, with what everyone had been through?
Yeah, look, I think what we really noticed was it was the dinner table conversation in New Zealand. It was on every night, and almost every game went to the last over, if not the last ball. And it just meant that as that momentum kept going and going and the quality of the cricket was great, I had one day off in the middle of the event where I took my younger son to the cricket, ironically, for his game. And as I walked up, I had 2 fathers were having a conversation in front of me and they were having a bit of a heated debate about whether Ismail's debating 2 different female bowlers and their styles and which one was faster and most aggressive. And they were getting, really, really heated about it. And I thought, well, this is success, really, if this is the... And as the tournament went along, you just saw, Sophie Divide being chased by children asking for her autograph. The conversation got better. And I think as New Zealanders, we were really... It was a hard time as we kind of started to deal with what you have been through before, but was new to us. And to have something that was happening and successful and happening on the global stage was something I think people took a lot of pride in.
Well, it's fantastic to hear what you're saying about the effect it had, about women's cricket. Were the TV audiences really good?
Yeah, fantastic. In fact, I just saw some numbers through and, it was definitely the most, up there with the most watched content. And even in the Holy of Holies rugby match, season, there was rugby on at the same time. This is really dominating the conversation. So, there's some really good anecdotal stuff. Haven't seen all the hard numbers yet, but it's looking really good. And certainly it's clear that there was a lot of people. You turn on the radio, everyone was talking about it on the internet. It was the conversation topic, which is cool.
So the failure of the White Ferns, I'll speak quietly now, to reach the semi-finals, that didn't have too much an effect on how the tournament sort of progressed?
Yeah, look, I think they had some really close matches, the White Ferns, and they put up a really good fight. I think that they won the hearts of New Zealanders, even if they were a little frustrated at times. And it really came down to, I was lucky enough to be at Eden Park for those balls. One ball really in that match against England was between us and you to make it to the semi-finals. What really gave us a real burst of energy was that the Monday after New Zealand knocked out was when we got the full crowds announced. So it allowed us to kind of go at the finals with a real sense of excitement. But what had happened is that New Zealanders had been watching every match. And that you always say in a World Cup that should happen, but it actually happened at ours. And so there was a group of people who were excited and following the English, the South Africans, the West Indies, the Australians even, for New Zealanders right through. So it was really cool. And what was also great was to see a lot of the White Ferns involved in the broadcast of the last few matches. So Frankie Mackay went back to her commentary. I think Katie Martin was involved. So that was really cool to see them part of the sports presentation right up to the end.
And did you find with the crowd you got plenty of family engagement at the matches?
Yeah, look, so when we were going to be in full crowds, we built our whole organisation around families. So we actually had free childcare on offer at our matches. Now, COVID restraints meant that there were a few it didn't happen at, but most of the way through, we had trampoline parks, particularly at the finals, for kids to have a bounce around. And we really unashamedly gone after families, sporting families. You don't need to be a cricket fan. This is history. Be part of something really amazing. It's the first of 3 World Cups here in New Zealand. So the Rugby World Cup's here in October. And then next year, New Zealand and Australia are sharing the Women's FIFA World Cup. So, that momentum and being part of that moment of history was what brought families in, I think.
Now, we've mentioned them several times, the Australians, or the mighty Australians, possibly the greatest women's cricket team of all time. You were obviously at the final. How exciting was the final to watch?
I mean, it was amazing. It was a spectacular display, and Alyssa Healy was just it was one of the most impressive sporting performances at right when it really mattered. But I think also what was really great about the Australians is it really demonstrated that if you invest in women's sport and you invest in professional athletes, then you create winning teams. And it's no mistake that the 2 teams in the final were Australia and England, from my perspective, as it should be. And hopefully as time goes by and more investment happens, and more countries follow Australia's path and England's path, then, you'll get to see that competition. But, it did seem at times that there was a huge amount of really close matches, but not many of them involved Australia. So it could have been seen as inevitable, that result, but England put up a huge fight in the final, didn't they? And, Nat Skiver, had a pretty amazing performance of her own. So, look, I'm no sports commentator and it's not my area of expertise, but I really enjoyed watching that match.
We ran them close in the first game. I think we lost by 12 runs, but in the final we lost by 71 runs. But having lost
there were a lot of runs that day, though.
There was. Having lost our first 3 matches, England did particularly well to get to the final.
I mean, I don't think it was looking likely at certain points of the tournament, was it? But
no.
I think that close match against New Zealand burst of wind behind England and right through to the end. You
mentioned earlier that as a youngster, you weren't that big a sports fan, but are you a big cricket fan now?
Yeah, cricket was my first sport that I fell in love with, and I am the mother of a cricket mad son. One of them, my older son, is he's almanac reading, read every 1980s cricket biography. He's one of those cricket fans, so that's a big part of our family, and he's obviously loved me having this job. And he never saw a difference, actually, between the men's and the women's teams. He was the one, when I first got the job, who taught me, who the players were and who to watch. So, I love cricket. I am a cricket fan. And so it is no hardship for me to spend a month watching one-day cricket, my favourite format.
So, drawing to a close, reflections on the tournament. Did it achieve its aims?
Yes, it absolutely did. I think it went through a circuitous route to the finish line. We talked a lot about curveballs along the way, but we had a vision at the beginning to kind of own our moment on the global trajectory of women's sport and to lead change. And there were some really amazing things that happened, which I haven't spoken about, actually, that really demonstrated that. So we had all of the changing facilities at all of our venues were built for men. So they only had cubicles. They didn't have cubicles, or they might have one. And the showers didn't have doors. And so as a result of our tournament, they're all now appropriate for female athletes and will be for generations to come. And that kind of change and leading that change is a big part of what we set out to do. I do feel it achieved its aims. I'm really proud of the event that happened, and I can't wait to see what happens in Birmingham at the Commonwealth Games and to see, women's cricket take that next step, because it's going to be a busy couple of years for these athletes.
I certainly agree that women's cricket is booming, as is women's sport. I mean, in England this year, we've got, as you mentioned, the Commonwealth Games, and we've also got the 100, where we've got more of the Australian cricketers playing in the 100 this year. So women's sport is really on the up.
Yeah, it's just about, you can't, it's a cliche, but you can't be what you can't see. And, for the next generation of boys and girls, they turn on their telly, they could be watching Arsenal women or Arsenal men, they could be watching, the 100, in either gender, and it's all the sport, right? And that will by itself create massive social change. And that's what got me out of bed for 3 years doing this event. And it's what we were so focused on achieving, and really proud to have seen it happen.
Well, you say for the last 3 years, has your role as CEO officially ended, or are you still doing some tidy up jobs even now?
Got a bit of wrap up to do. Got a little bit of wrap up to do. We're nearly there.
And what's your next role, or are you taking a break? Have you got another big tournament to organise?
Look, I'm taking. I'll plead the fifth on that one. I'm going to take some time out to recover from the event and in a fairly nasty dose of COVID, and spend some time with the family, and I'll take it from there.
Well, thank you very much for joining me on the Paddock and the Pavilion, telling me your story and also the story of the Women's World Cup of 2022. And you must be really proud of the event that you and New Zealand put on.
Thank you, Stephen, and thanks for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the Paddock and the Pavilion. You can download the show on Apple Podcasts,
Amazon Music,
SoundCloud, Stitcher and Spotify.
Follow us on Twitter, Facebook and Instagram at The Pad and Pav. Don't forget, if you like the show, please do leave us a rating and review.
Sports Social Podcast Network.
For Mervis Diamond Importers, I'm Ronnie Mervis. Once again, Mervis sets the standard for jewelry. You've got to see our new collection. Straight row diamond tennis bracelets remain a favorite. They're simple and elegant. Our neck pieces are so sexy, they're almost illegal. Imagine a perfect diamond, suspended from a delicate gold chain, resting securely in the small of her throat. What a beautiful, sensuous gift. Our magnificent diamond bands will melt her heart. The Mervis diamonds are ferociously brilliant. They seem to leap out at you. The designs are daring and rare. You'll find them at one place only, Mervis. And as for earrings, Mervis proudly shows the newest diamond ear studs, dangles, hoops, and anything else you can imagine. When you really love her, show it with Mervis Diamond Jewelry, the best there is. Two philosophies unite everything at Mervis. The finest quality and legendary Mervis value. The prices are almost too good to be true. Come see for yourself. She'll thank you forever. Mervis Diamond Importers. Financing is available. Go to mervisdiamond.com. Again, that's mervisdiamond.com or call 1-800-PER-LOVE.